Но я читал также сообщение, которое офис канцлера Германии выпустил по итогам разговора. Там сказано, что он осудил российскую агрессию, сказано, что Германии будет с Россией столько, сколько необходимо. Ну, это, в общем, понимаете, это то, что и немцы, и другие члены Евросоюза и НАТО говорят публично в любом случае. Вот. И когда звучит «будем с Украиной столько, сколько необходимо», возникает вопрос, необходимо кому? Уж точно совершенно не украинскому народу.
This is my video update on this Saturday, midday, November the 16th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the phone call between Putin and Scholz. I'm surprised that Putin decided to speak to Scholz, to be quite honest. Scholz is on his way out. At least that's how it looks. In a couple of months, we're going to have snap elections in Germany. Most likely February 23rd is the date that is being considered. And Scholz is going to exit, and most likely we're going to get a more hawkish BlackRock Friedrich Merz as the chancellor. BlackRock Merz, who has warned Russia and given Russia an ultimatum. Either you capitulate now, surrender and capitulate, or we will, as Germany, send long-range Taurus missiles to the Elensky regime. So that is going to be the future, most likely the future Prime Minister of Germany in a couple of months. It'll be BlackRock Merz and the pirate. The pirate is walking the plank, matey. Scholz is gone. But Putin still decided to talk to him. I understand he has to talk to him, I guess. He's the president of Russia, and when the leader of Germany requests a phone call, this phone call was initiated by Germany. They requested the call. As the president of Russia, you have to take the call. And Putin never closes any doors. No matter how bad the situation, he always leaves the door open to diplomacy and discussion, even with someone like Pirate Scholz. So let's go through what was said during this phone call. Let's start with the German side. Here we go. Putin and Scholz hold first phone call in 2 years. According to the government spokesman, Stefan Hebestreit, the German chancellor insisted on Russia's readiness to negotiate with Ukraine in order to achieve a fair and lasting peace. Scholz also spoke of Berlin's unwavering determination to support Kiev as long as necessary, as long as it takes. Scholz also urged Putin to end the conflict and withdraw his troops, according to the German spokesman. So as long as it takes, and withdraw your troops. That is what Scholz told Putin. End the conflict now, withdraw your troops, and Germany's going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Let's see what the Kremlin is saying. They put out a readout of the conversation in English. So this is coming from the official site of the Kremlin as translated by the Kremlin. A telephone conversation with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The president of Russia, Putin, had a telephone conversation with Olaf Scholz, held for the first time since December 2022 at the initiative of the German side. The leaders had an in-depth and frank exchange of views on the situation in Ukraine. Putin reiterated that the current crisis was a direct result of NATO's long-standing aggressive policy aimed at creating a staging ground against Russia on Ukrainian soil. while showing disregard for Russia's security concerns and trampling on the rights of Russian-speaking residents of Ukraine, speaking on the prospects for reaching a political and diplomatic settlement of the conflict. The president of Russia pointed out that the Russian side had never rejected and was still open to resuming the talks broken off by the Kiev regime. Russia's proposals are well known and have been outlined, in particular in the president's speech at the Foreign Ministry in June. Any possible agreements must address security concerns of the Russian Federation, rest on the new territorial realities, and most importantly, eliminate the original causes of the conflict. The discussion also touched on the state of affairs in relations between Russia and Germany. Putin noted their unprecedented decline in all areas caused by the unfriendly policy pursued by the German authorities. It was emphasized that Russia had always honored its commitments under various treaties and contracts in the energy sector and was still willing to promote mutually beneficial cooperation if the German side showed interest in it. Recent escalations in the Middle East were also addressed. Putin informed Scholz on the efforts made by Russia to de-escalate and seek peaceful solutions for the regional crisis. The leaders agreed that following their telephone conversation, their aides would keep in touch. Trampling on the rights of Russian-speaking residents. You know our conditions for peace. He's basically telling Scholz Russia's proposals are well known and have been outlined. Stop telling us to withdraw our troops. Stop telling us to end the war. We didn't start this war. You guys started this war. We're now winning. We are going to win. And our conditions for peace. That's pretty much what the readout is saying. Putin outlined the conditions for peace, for negotiations, in his speech at the Foreign Ministry in June. He even gives the date of the speech, so Olaf Scholz and his aides can go back and look at the statements made by Putin at the Foreign Ministry. Istanbul Plus, which is probably now Istanbul Plus Plus. And everyone knows the conditions. No NATO. The new territories, Kherson, Zaporozhye, Donetsk, Lugansk, in their entirety. Probably no EU. I would guess that Ukraine doesn't get into NATO, but probably now doesn't get into the EU because the EU has pretty much merged with NATO. Eliminate the original causes of the conflict: denazification, demilitarization, constant NATO expansion. All of these things that we've talked about on this channel and on the Duran 100 times. Everyone knows what the conditions are to begin negotiations. If you're Russia, Russia has laid it out in detail, the conditions, and Putin is telling Olaf, you know what our conditions are. Pirate, hey pirate, you know what our conditions are. And then he blamed Germany for the deteriorating relationship between Germany and Russia. But he leaves the door open for cooperation. He says that in the energy sector, Russia has honored all its contracts in the energy sector, he said, which is true, and was still willing to promote mutually beneficial cooperation if the German side showed interest in it. Your economy's collapsing. You're deindustrializing. Hey, pirate, you're deindustrializing, mate. You're freaking deindustrializing. You're in recession. Volkswagen's shutting down factories. Businesses are leaving. We're still willing to send gas your way. There still is one of the pipelines of Nord Stream that can still operate. Just give us the word. That's basically what he's saying here. So that's the readout from the Kremlin side of things. Brutal. Brutal if you're Olaf Scholz. If you were Olaf Scholz, that was probably a very tough phone call. But he deserves it. He was awful. He was an awful chancellor, perhaps one of the worst chancellors in a long, long time. Oversaw the deindustrialization of Germany because he had to support the Elensky regime for as long as it takes. The pirate Scholz. Justin, you idiot. Trudeau, you idiot. Look at all the parakeets. So Elensky. They blend in so well with the grass, huh? The parakeets. So what did Elensky say? Not happy. The man in the green t-shirt was not happy that Olaf Scholz called Putin. He said that other leaders are going to now start talking to Putin. And Russia's isolation is going to end. How delusional is Elensky? Do you honestly believe that Russia's isolated? Elensky, really? You're still buying into that? Elensky really is clueless. Let's see what Elensky said here. He put out a video, Instagram, TikTok statement talking about the phone call between Scholz and Putin, and this is what he also posted on X. Chancellor Scholz told me that he planned to call Putin. His call, in my opinion, opens Pandora's box. There may now be other conversations and phone calls, just a lot of words. And this is exactly what Putin has long sought. It is critical for him to weaken his isolation, as well as Russia's isolation, and to hold mere talks that will lead nowhere. He has been doing this for decades. This has allowed Russia to avoid making any changes to its policies, effectively doing nothing, which has ultimately led to this war. We understand all the current challenges and we know what to do. And we want to make it clear there will be no Minsk III. We need real peace. Remember that video when Elensky, Merkel, I believe it was Macron that was there, not Hollande, Macron and Putin, and they were talking about the Minsk agreement. And as Putin was talking about implementing the Minsk agreement, which the Europeans and Ukraine were not fulfilling their side of the deal, Elensky was laughing. You guys know the video I'm talking about. Yeah, that's Zelensky now talking about not being a Minsk III when he knew back then that he was never going to fulfill the terms of the first two Minsk agreements. He knew it, and he was laughing as Putin was talking about how it's important to fulfill the Minsk agreements. Elensky was laughing. He knew that it was all a game. He knew what was up. Merkel is on record saying that the Minsk agreements were nothing more than a way to buy time so that they could build up Ukraine's army, which would eventually take on Russia and be used to get some sort of regime change in Russia. That's pretty much what Merkel said. She's on record saying the Minsk agreements were nothing but a way to buy time to build up Ukraine's army. That's what Merkel said, the Chancellor Merkel. So it's interesting that Elensky is talking about Minsk III. There will be no Minsk III. Yeah, Russia said the same thing, Elensky. To your detriment, to your demise, Russia has also said there will be no Minsk III. So that's the statement from Elensky talking about Russia and Putin's isolation. The only person isolated in the world right now is the man in the green t-shirt. He's the only person that is isolated, not Putin. Not Putin, it is Elensky that is isolated, and he knows it. Even The Economist is saying that Ukraine's commanders on the front lines, they don't tell Elensky what's going on in Donbass, in the catastrophic situation for the Ukraine military. They don't tell Elensky the situation, the real situation. The guy's clueless. He's in the dark. So that was his message. opening up a Pandora's box. This opens up a Pandora's box. Podolyak, this phone call with Putin, Scholz and Putin, this pirate, it opens up a panda's box. You see, Podolyak, this is a panda's box. Inside box, there is a panda, and the panda come out and he bite you. And this is why this phone call, very dangerous. It is a panda box. This is saying that they have in America. Mr. President, I think that's Pandora's box, not panda's box. What you mean, Podolyak? What is this, a Pandora? It's a panda box. You know, panda, like a bear with big patch. Like Olaf Scholz, big eye patch. Like Pirate Scholz. Zelensky, time's a ticking, man. The neocons want you out. The deep state wants you out. The only thing that is keeping Elensky in his position, the only thing my gut is telling me are the Europeans. The Rutes and the Annalinas and the Ursulas, because they like Elensky. They like Elensky because he's a real actor. Right, he's a professional actor, and all these people, Trudeau and all these guys, they aspire to be actors. Annalena, Trudeau, Kaya Kallas, and so they look at Elensky with awe and wonder. Wow, you were an actor, you were a paid professional actor, you had a TV show. Wow, that's why they're so fascinated with Elensky. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of Elensky #5, and it's the Europeans that are keeping him in office. If he didn't have the Europeans, the U.S., the deep state, the neocons, they would have been done with Zelensky in a very, very ugly and aggressive way. That's my hunch. That's what my gut is telling me. When the Economist, neocon central Economist, puts out an article talking about how in May there's going to be elections, and the military is not giving Zelensky any information on the front line. They're making him out to be completely clueless, incompetent and clueless. And that's a sign, that's a signal that the neocons and the DC establishment, they want Zelensky gone. Because they want to get to a freeze. And Zelensky is preventing a freeze. They want that freeze plan. Even though Russia's not going to go for a freeze plan, they want that freeze. They want Trump, the Trump administration, to go to Putin and to go to Putin and Zelensky, or whoever's going to be the president, and propose a freeze. Let's freeze the conflict, and in 20 years, we'll get Ukraine into NATO. That's what they're hoping for. Never going to happen. The neocons should ask Russia. They should ask Russia, how do you guys see things? But they never ask Russia. They never consult with Russia. And Putin told Olaf Scholz, you know what we want. You know what our terms are to begin negotiations. We've said it 100 times. Just go back to my foreign ministry statement in June. You know where we stand on all of this. Anyway, let's go to some denials coming out of Kiev. Podolyak, he is denying the whole atomic weapons story from the UK Times. Nuclear bomb won't help Ukraine, Zelensky's top advisor. Even armed with atomic weapons, Kiev would not be able to deter Russia, Podolyak admitted. So Podolyak, he said, and I quote, "It is important not to confuse the concept of nuclear weapons with an optimal deterrence option." Podolyak added that even if Ukraine were to create such a weapon in the foreseeable future, which he insists is not on the table, it cannot deter the empire with the second largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Yeah, I read this denial from Podolyak, and it's not much of a denial. My gut is telling me that that Ukraine is trying to create some sort of a dirty bomb or something. That's what my gut is telling me. I don't know. I don't have any information or any evidence or anything. It's just a hunch. But you read a denial like that from Podolyak, and doesn't feel like much of a denial. A strong denial is we don't have nukes. We're never going to build them. We don't know how to build them. We wouldn't want to build them. Come and send inspectors. We'll open up the country to you. That's a good denial. This denial from Podolyak, it's telling me that they're up to something. That's not good. That is not good. The defense minister, Umerov, he is also denying the Wall Street Journal story, which came out a couple of days ago, or not the Wall Street Journal story, the New York Times story, which came out a couple of days ago, which said that there are now former and current diplomats in the European Union who are pushing Ukraine for a deal with Russia, a land for peace deal. Russia keeps the land. We get peace through a freeze, the freeze plan. And this is now being talked about in the European Union, and it's no longer taboo to talk about such things in the EU, a land for peace deal. And Umerov, the defense minister of Ukraine, he said, no, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Ukraine will not give up territory. He was at a press conference, speaking at a press conference in Oslo, and he said the land for peace deal is Russian propaganda. It's lies and Russian propaganda. Territorial integrity is part of our values, Umerov stated, reaffirming that Ukraine is committed to reclaiming all land lost to Russia since 2014. He insisted that any reports suggesting Kiev would shift its priorities are false. The return of the borders of 1991 remains our priority goal, he said. So he's refuting the New York Times reporting. Basically, he's saying that the EU officials are lying. Ukraine will never agree to this, out of the question, according to the defense minister, which is why if your goal is freezing the conflict and getting Ukraine into NATO in 20 years, if you're the establishment, the political elite, the neocons, if that's your goal, then who stands in your way? The Elensky regime. So what do you have to do? You have to have elections in May. Get Elensky out. And the reason they're going with elections is because the Europeans, my sense is the Europeans, they're still holding on to Elensky. And so they're trying to figure out a smoother transition, which they can sell to the citizens of the collective West, right? Ukraine had elections, democracy in action, and Zelensky lost. And now we have President Zelensky or President, I don't know, Poroshenko or Klitschko or whoever they're going to put in there, right? It's much better. It's a much better script and narrative than we as neocons, we as the political globalist elite, we regime changed our own comedian clown puppet, right? Elections sound a lot better. Easier to sell to the citizens of the collective West. So those are the denials coming out of Ukraine. And the European Union, they are saying that they have evidence that China is providing lethal weapons, drones, to Russia. This is what Borrell claims. Jungle Joseph strikes again. He's gone too. Joseph is gone in a week. The jungle Joseph Gardiner, he is gone in a week. That's why you hear him talking about the EU going after Israel. All the news coming out of Borrell about how the EU should cut off political or diplomatic ties or stuff like that with Israel. It's because he's leaving in a week. I mean, he is gone on December 1st. So he's a year late, Borrell, talking about how the EU needs to take action against Israel. He's saying all this stuff because he's Audi 5000. But he's now saying that in his final meeting with foreign ministers, he's going to present the evidence. Let me find it here, that China is providing lethal weapons to Russia. And he says it's convincing evidence. The EU's top diplomat, Jungle Joseph, reportedly informed European nations of convincing evidence of Chinese production of lethal aid to Russia ahead of an upcoming meeting of EU foreign ministers. The German media outlet Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, FAZ, reported on November 15th, citing 3 EU officials, quote, "We have had reports from intelligence sources on the existence of one factory inside China producing drones which are shipped to Russia. a senior EU official told Politico on November 15th. One factory. They say they have evidence of one factory making drones in China. And they're going to use this as a reason to place sanctions on China. More deindustrialization and recession coming to the European Union once they place more sanctions on China. Because according to them, they have evidence that there's a factory in China producing drones for Russia. Meanwhile, on the Ukraine side of things, you have 30 or 40 countries which have completely demilitarized in order to fight a proxy war against Russia. Not to mention placing 16,000 sanctions on Russia and sending a gazillion, trillion, bajillion dollars to the Elensky regime, which is unaccounted for, unaudited. No one knows what the hell happened to all of that money. But it's that one factory in China, right? That's the problem. Never mind the Leopards, the Abrams, the Challengers, the F-16s. Whatever happened to the wonder weapon? Whatever happened to that wonder weapon F-16 that was going to change the game? No one talks about that anymore, do they? Nope. Now it's the long-range missiles. That's going to make all the difference, right? That damn Chinese factory making drones. That won the war for Putin. The Chinese factory, the North Korean soldiers, and the shovels and the washing machine chips. That's what did it. That Chinese factory, the North Koreans, those North Koreans, man. Kursk was Ukraine's. And after Kursk, it was Moscow and then St. Petersburg. But then came the North Koreans. They ruined everything. And those damn shovels. Look at how many parakeets, my God. They are so beautiful. They're beautiful. They're beautiful, and they're very loud, but it's nice. I like listening to them as they're talking and communicating with each other. Oh, the parakeets. All right, so that's the evidence there on China. Let's move on and let's get through this video on this Saturday. What else? The Democrats, some Democrats are calling on investigating Musk because of that Wall Street Journal article, which claimed that Musk talked to Russian officials. He had a phone call with Putin, which we know about. The Kremlin isn't denying that. A couple of years ago, there was one phone call. This is what the Kremlin is saying. There was one phone call between Putin and Musk that has been documented. And the Wall Street Journal reported a couple of weeks ago that Musk talked to Russian officials. We don't know who these people were, who these Russians were. But now the Democrats are talking about investigating Musk. Yesterday, I said that the New York Times article, which talked about Musk having a meeting with the Iranian ambassador to the UN, I said in that video, watch. They're going to use this to do another Russiagate, another Michael Flynn, 2016 Michael Flynn Russiagate type of thing. That's what this is going to be used for. And sure enough, that's where they're heading. So the Democrats want to investigate Musk. Let's see here. Jack Reed, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and Gene Shahan, a senior member of the Foreign Relations Committee, raised concerns about the media allegations in a letter to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Pentagon Inspector General Robert Storch on Friday. They're concerned. They're concerned about Musk's Musk communicating with several senior Russian officials in recent years. Two top Democrat senators have demanded in a letter. Yeah. The relationship between a well-known U.S. adversary and Mr. Musk, a beneficiary of billions of dollars in U.S. government funding, pose serious questions regarding Mr. Musk's reliability as a government contractor and a clearance holder, they wrote. All right. They're going with the Michael Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador to the U.S. Russiagate, Mueller, Steele playbook. That's where they're heading towards. That's where they're heading towards with all of this. So the Pentagon failed another audit. Its 7th audit. 7 times it has failed an audit. 7 freaking times. Wow. Unbelievable. Let's see. The Hill says Pentagon fails 7th audit in a row. What says progress is made? The Pentagon on Friday failed its 7th audit in a row, with the nation's largest government agency still unable to fully account for its more than $824 billion budget. Though officials stress they are making good progress toward a clean audit in 2028. In 2028, they're hoping for a clean audit. When Trump's term ends, right? Oh, man. Where does all that money go? Where did all that Ukraine money go? The U.S. national debt passed 36 trillion. That's 36 with a T, 36 trillion. And it was 34 trillion like 6 months ago. I believe it was 34, or 6 or 9 months ago, it was 34 trillion. And in the last 4 months, or the last 3 months, it's grown by 1 trillion. Just give some more money to Elensky. That'll solve everything. More money to Elensky will solve all of your debt problems. Let's do some clown worlds. We'll wrap up this video. German police, they raided the house of a pensioner because he retweeted a meme which called Robert Habeck, the Green Party leader, along with Annalena 360, called Habeck an imbecile. And this is a meme that he retweeted, from what I understand, reposted on X. And the police raided his home, and he's facing something like 1 year in prison. Germany, they're losing their minds in Germany, man. The political class are going crazy. The Greens are going crazy. He called Habeck, or he retweeted a post which called Habeck Schwachkopf, which means imbecile. Is he lying? Is this meme lying? I don't think so. I don't think so, but Habeck can't take any criticism. Robert Habeck, huh? And this guy wants to be Chancellor of Germany. He actually thinks he has a chance of being Chancellor. Right now, he's the most powerful person in Germany, or at least for the entire Scholz administration. It was Habeck that was pretty much running the show, Habeck and Annalena. They bullied Scholz. They told Scholz what to do, and Scholz, he went along with everything that they told him. Habeck and Baerbock. He was a prisoner to the Greens, Olaf Scholz, because he's weak. But who's really weak is Habeck. A meme triggered him. Man, Habeck. Oh, by the way, there's a new press secretary. Trump named the new press secretary. It's going to be Caroline Levitt. Just thought I would throw that out there. And let's finish things off with Trudeau, a clown world with Justin. And Taylor Swift, she is going to be in Toronto, I believe, finishing up her tour, her concert tour in Canada, in Toronto. And a huge police escort for Taylor Swift as she rolled into town. You don't even see this type of police escort for world leaders. Biden never got this type of escort when he was in Canada. Did he ever go to Canada, the professor? I don't know if he was ever in Canada, but man, they closed down the streets and a whole bunch of police cars there to take Taylor Swift, I don't know, to her hotel or whatever, to the concert venue. A lot of security for Taylor Swift, but the clown world is that Trudeau actually posted on X about Swift in Canada. I can't believe this. I can't believe he posted on X about Taylor Swift. This is what Trudeau said. "We're ready for you at Taylor Swift 13. Good choice wrapping the Eras tour in Canada. Has this always been your end game? Hashtag Toronto, Vancouver." The Prime Minister of Canada is posting about Taylor Swift giving a concert in Toronto, man. That's creepy. That is creepy and cringe and just weird, man. What was I saying, though? You see, they love Elensky because they all wish they were Elensky. Not now. Now they don't want to be Elensky, but they wish that they were actors and they were comedians and they were singers. That's why the Trudeaus and the Ursulas, the Rutes, the Annalinas, definitely the Annalinas, the Habecks. That's why they support Elensky, and they will support him until the end. He did what they could never do. He actually had a TV show. I'm just looking at some of the replies under Trudeau's post on X. "Glad to see your administration has its priorities in order. Could you be any creepier?" Oh my God, I honestly thought this was a troll account. Good Lord, how are you running a country? Canada's end game is to get rid of you, Justin. I'll leave it there. Well said. Well said. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like this hoodie, maybe a t-shirt with the flag of Canada, and like this video, subscribe to this channel, and maybe I can get to 215,000 subscribers on YouTube. I finally made it to the 210 mark, finally, after about a month. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough creating content on YT. Anyway, that's the video. Take care.